Hi, I'm Terry, and It's About Writing. Today I have Addie Quate with us and our special guest, Ann Mulligan. And we're so excited to have Ann here. She's a wonderful writer. She's been on a writer's group with me for many years.
Many years.
And she has mentored me before in how to fix your story when you're stuck and how to change some things. So that's what we're going to talk about. And why don't you just give us a little bit of a rundown of bio about you?
Well, I love everything Southern. I started out writing plays for church, scripts to use in the church. So I got dialogue down real well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I turned to novels and found out I didn't know too much. Had a lot to learn. I live in the South, in Atlanta area, north of Atlanta, in a little town called Sugar Hill. And we've got a rascally Rottweiler that's laying on the floor over here. And my husband's an artist, and our son is a chef, and creates a crazy household.
Lots of creatives in your house.
Yeah, a lot of creatives in my house. Yeah.
Very cool.
And so how many books have you published?
My 11th just published. I've been in a bunch of little compilation things, but my 11th novel just published, and the 12th is with them. It comes out next June, and I'm finishing up the 13th.
Wow. Okay, busy lady.
Yeah, it's been busy. COVID has been good for me. Instead of doing everything else, I've been writing. So
It's
really there's always a positive.
Can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Sorry, Deb.
Oh, no problem. So tell us a little bit about how you got started.
I started writing scripts for use in the church. I was the creative arts director at our church. So we were doing sermon starters. And I started that way. And then at one point, my husband said, you read so many books, you ought to write one. And when he said that, an idea popped into my head. Mm-hmm. And so I started then. I mean, that's how I did it. But that was back when independent publishing was not an option. That was vanity press, and they weren't, good. So traditional publishing was my goal, and it was all along. It took me 12 years to get there.
Wow.
We got there. It was a long haul. There were times when I was going to committee after about 3 years, and but always something was the wrong story, or all these things happening. And I started to tell you about the time when I actually went to Pub Board. They were ready to publish a book, and then the editor retired, and they wiped her hard drive clean, and that was a hard drive with my book on it. And
it hurts.
Yeah, it was such a shock, but I really realized that God was telling me something, not there and not now. And where I ended up was kind of unique, and I really love it. I don't know if you remember, Terry, in Penwrights, when Eddie Jones came in and joined us. Do you remember his Hard Aground email address?
His what email?
It was Hard Aground.
Hard ground. Oh.
Hard aground, like a boat. Hard aground. Anyway, he worked with us. We mentored him and all of that. And one day, he started with Cindy Sproul's, a publishing company. And my agent sent him the book, and he wanted it. And I thought it was so unusual when I found out who the publisher was, that it was an old critique partner.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a neat role, and I've been happy there ever since.
So what's the company name?
Well, that was Lighthouse Publishing of the Carolinas.
Lighthouse. Oh, okay.
Yes. Well, now there are 2 Lighthouse out there. There's one that's just Lighthouse, and that is a vanity press, and they do not edit the books at all.
Oh, yikes.
In fact, I tried to get one of my books into get the library journal to review it, and they said, we won't touch Lighthouse Books. And I tried to explain to her that it was Lighthouse Publishing of the Carolinas, a different one, but she was already turned off, so she wouldn't even look.
No.
And that's fine, no big thing. Like I said, after all I'd been through, I knew God had control of what was happening, so I didn't worry about it. But about a year ago, Eddie sold to Iron Stream Media. And Ramona Richards is one of the acquisition editors and one of the associate publisher, I think her title is. Mm-hmm. And so I've been delighted to be there. They're absolutely wonderful.
Okay, I have a book there now with their Illuminate YA. And
great!
A complete manuscript. So I'm excited about that.
You're going to love it. Absolutely love them. I'm real tickled with them.
I met with Tessa Hall. Is it? Yeah, Tessa Hall. Mm-hmm. She's amazing. Published at 16. Incredible.
Wow.
So yeah. So she's the one looking at it right now.
Great.
So
and it's a great book. It's a great book.
That's terrific. I always liked Tara's writing.
Anne's probably I don't know, you may have already read it. It was Deceiver or King is the one it's a biblical YA. And
I think I remember.
The son of a Pharisee and the daughter of the prostitute in there.
Oh, I love it.
And but I completely rewrote it in 2019. So just added another whole thing. That was like the first book I ever wrote.
Yeah. I remember it, but I know how that is.
Speaking of, help us to, for ourselves and others, figure out what to do when you're stuck, which I think is what we were excited to hear from you about.
Oh, yes, and I get stuck a lot. I have found usually when I'm stuck, I am forgetting motivation.
Okay.
And that is one of the biggest things I have come to realize is the most important thing you can discover about your hero or heroine is their motivation.
All right.
What you have to know what the lie they believe is about themselves. There's 8 basic psychological lies from like, I'm not good enough, it's all my fault, those kind of things. And they're usually seated in early childhood. And so that colors a character's entire world. It colors their interaction with other people. It colors how they view things that happen around them. The situations, they view it one way when it might be just completely offhand how it happened, but they think it's my fault or whatever their lie is. So those things, those are really important to know. I took a class taught by Lori Schnebley Campbell, or it could be Lori Campbell Schnebley, whichever it is, called Plotting via Motivation, and I absolutely loved it. And she gets you down to the real core motivation of the character. And I spend a couple months before I start writing a book getting to know my characters really, really well.
That's
so
really
when
smart.
I get, what's that?
I just said that's really smart, so that you know their motivations, what they would do in a certain situation, how they would react, right. And how they would speak.
Exactly. In the book that just came out last month in August, called In High Cotton, I had to go back 4 generations to figure out why they were the way they were. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I write a really extensive backstory, and it's just a flow. I don't think about it. I just start typing and just let all of the creativity flow to come up with their background. It just happens. Most of it never hits the story, hits the book, but I know the character really, really well. Know what makes them tick. So generally when I get stuck, and I do in every novel, as I hit the middle, I tend to get stuck. I am finding the more I write, the more I'm becoming a seat of the pants writer. Yeah, and I used to plot a lot, but now once I know those characters really well, and I know the beginning, I know the end, I know the inciting incident, I know where they go through that third doorway back and, and whatnot, but a lot of the stuff in between, I don't know. And so I'll write for a while and then I hit a spot, now what? And I have to either brainstorm with someone, with a good critique partner, brainstorm, and usually that gets me going again. But especially more than anything is the motivation.
I love that.
Yeah. Now, the book that comes out next June, and it's called On Sugar Hill, takes place near where I live. It's in 1929 and 1930, and they weren't a town back then, so it's on Sugar Hill instead of in. And I originally started writing that book, and I placed it in the Low Country. And it turned very, very dark. And I don't write dark story. You know that. Terry,
you like happy stuff.
Yeah, I don't write dark fiction, and this was turning really dark. So I had a little over 30,000 words, and I looked at it, and I hit delete.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh, that is true courage.
I couldn't write. I absolutely could not write. So that can be another problem, is where you said it. I revamped some of the, go ahead, what?
I just said, very good point. Your setting can determine a lot.
It can, absolutely can. So I moved it to Sugar Hill and changed a couple of the characters, what they were doing, but mainly the main ones are about the same, but the story, the background, where it was going changed. And all of a sudden it just poof, took off. So it was great.
Wow.
That was a surprise.
Yeah.
So that can be, again, part of it. And then here's another one for you. The third book is called By the Sweet Gum. And it takes place in a mill village in Georgia. And as I studied somewhat about mill villages, I had an idea of what I wanted. And the more I studied, the more I realized, that's not going to work. So your research can change stuff. That happened in Chapel Springs, one of my first books. I wrote myself into a corner. I was 55,000 words in, and I was in a corner.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it was a geological corner. The springs had gone cool, and this was a huge factor in the book. And I had all this stuff happen, but then it came time to fix it. How do they do it? So through ACFW, I found a geologist. And it turns out the problem is not impossible. It's highly improbable, but it could have happened. Naturally would be a little iffy, but if there had been an explosion, we decided to have a road having been built through. They dynamited to get rid of stuff, and that changed the course of this stream, and that worked. Oh. But so that's another one you can run into if you don't know everything about your subject yet.
So it's really, the community of writers is so helpful.
It absolutely is. Every writer is going to get stuck somewhere. And I'm not talking, particularly writer's block. It's just my story's not moving forward. What do I do?
Yeah.
Get with another writer and brainstorm. Find out what ideas they have. Especially it's good if it's a critique partner, because they've already been reading some of your chapters, have an idea of the story, and know what's happening.
Yeah, that's so good. So have you ever had to take a story apart and completely rework it or did you just start over?
Well, on Sugar Hill, I moved it. When I first wrote started this Depression era series, my thought was to have one set here in Sugar Hill and Beaufort area. But I realized that Beaufort, the people kind of were okay, because we had a tannery, the Bona Allen Tannery is in Beaufort, and it employed most of the people in the area. And because of that, I couldn't have the conflict I wanted for in high cotton. So I moved that down to South Georgia. So then I was doing the one on the low country, and it was turning dark. And that's what made me think, I'm gonna go back to Sugar Hill. I'll put it there. Then that changed quite a bit of the story. My main character in that book is a ventriloquist in vaudeville. And yeah, and she comes back home. Vaudeville's dying. And so she comes back home, but her father has committed suicide with the crash and all of that. And he's not a nice character. Their relationship was horrible, absolutely horrendous. And so there's her mother, who is slightly delusional, and her mute aunt. Wow. Now, in the first story, when it was the dark one, I had a reason her aunt was mute. And it was a very dark, thing, and something she'd seen and something that had happened when she was young. And that was not part of this new story.
Was it still your backstory for her?
No, it was not the same. But I liked the fact of her being mute. Mm-hmm. How unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was fun. And she's a real character in the book. Mm-hmm. So I decided I'm not telling why. Mm-hmm. Born that way, who knows? Mm-hmm. She is, and that's the way it is. And that was kind of fun. That was a lot of fun. And so that totally changed. So I had to pull it apart and redo it. There were just a few things that continued through that were there originally, but beyond that, no, other than the fact that she'd been a ventriloquist, she's back, and now what? So that's where she's got to decide. So yeah, I've had to pull them apart and redo them.
I'm intrigued by what you say are the 8 lies that people tell themselves. What are the ones that you said, I'm not good enough? What else?
Okay, I gotta pull up now, is there a way to share files?
I don't think so, but if you pull it up on your computer, we won't see that. We'll still see you. So
I can tell. Okay, good. Let me pull it up real quick, because I always have to read it through. Block weaving. Hey. Here we go. Okay. And, okay, I'm a disappointment. I'm not good enough. That's one of the strongest lies, often used for men and really strong female leads. Mm-hmm. I'm not enough or defective is another one. It's different than the not good enough. That often, sometimes a middle child, or the first child when the second one comes along can, fall into that. Then the fourth one is I'm too much to handle and will get rejected. The fifth is it's all my fault. The sixth is helpless or powerless to fix. And this leads to the fear of being controlled. And it's a great lie to use. Unwanted or unlovable. And then I'm bad. And I'm bad can often be used as a symptom or an excuse for another lie, but it is used a lot in YA books and things like that.
That would be what is your source there?
That came from the study of psychology. Amy, I just had a senior moment and it's gone. Anyway, another writer, taught me about those. She studied psychology in college, and this comes from that study. And so these are the 8 very, very basic lies that people believe. They're usually embedded in the early childhood, because before about the age of 5, you don't reason anything. If someone,
feel.
Yeah, all you do is
Right.
feel. After 5 or older, they sometimes tend to reason it away. So usually you'll find somewhere in the background that those hit early childhood. And you can choose one and pick your own reason that it happened, Sometimes your character, if you ever done a stream of consciousness backstory for your character? Just started typing without thinking.
Yeah.
You get you really learn some unusual things, don't you?
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
it goes the way I didn't want it to go.
Well, but you know what? Sometimes when those things happen, it's insight that is so good into a character, and the psychology of it is so cool that it's fun to follow. If it doesn't work out, you can usually go back. But I have found, by the time I've spent enough time with my characters before I start writing, I know them so well that I let them go where they want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And it usually is the best.
Yeah. Or sometimes I've had a conversation with them,
Yeah.
Well, we're running a little long. So do you have any good advice for writers just getting started out, or ones who are having difficulty getting published?
Starting out is learn the basics of good writing, because then you learn how and when to break the rules, as they say, because there are times that rules do get broken or bent or changed, and you throw something in, but you have to know how to do it. I always say with panache, do it right so that the prose sings, so that it really works. And sometimes people say, well, so-and-so does it. Well, yeah, but so-and-so's got 20 books out, 30 books out.
They can get away with it. Yeah.
Right. And they spent their time learning the right way, and then began to blossom from there. If you're having trouble getting published, keep at it. I kept at it. I kept writing too. I didn't just camp on one book. I just kept writing. By the time I got my first contract, I had 2.5 books past that done in the series.
Excellent advice. Don't give up. Just keep writing. And once you get something sold, it's a lot easier to sell the next thing.
That's just it. And I never had to write to a real tight deadline, which is fantastic. And now I know my publisher's taking just about anything I do, and so I don't have to worry about it. And so the book I'm writing right now isn't even contracted yet. They have it penciled in, but I don't have a date, but I'm almost done with it, which
that's excellent.
Yeah. It's a wonderful way to do it.
Less pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Well, show us some of your books, Anne.
Okay, let me just turn this around a little bit. This is my most recent one that just came out in high cotton. And the series, if I went backwards, this is my Chapel Springs series. It started with Chapel Springs Revival. Mm-hmm. Next book was Chapel Springs Survival. And then we had Home to Chapel Springs. This one is really a story of my heart. It kind of chronicles a gal finding her birth sisters, which I did. Yeah. So
that's really fun.
Yeah. And then this is Life in Chapel Springs. And that was a fun one too. That one has a theater ghost in it, which was always fun. This is a little different. When the Bow Breaks is a bit of a political thriller, a romantic suspense. And I spent some years as a lobbyist. And so my character is a lobbyist for a pro-family group. And the opening scene was my first day lobbying. It actually happened.
How fun.
I just changed what the subject was, what the, it was at a judicial hearing, and I changed what the subject of it was, but other than that, everything happened that happened to me. I have a story in here called Love is Sweeter in Sugar Hill. And these are all tiny houses. Every story in here features a tiny house. And there's 7 authors in that book. And then this one is, there's 4 authors in here, and they're all take place in the South, and we each took a season. And my story is a magnolia. Yeah, it was a fun one. And mine's A Magnolia Blooms in Winter.
Oh, that sounds intriguing.
Yeah, that was a fun one to write. I liked it. And then I did a nonfiction with 9 other writers, that some good, writing from the trenches. And we each have different strengths. Mine's dialogue is one of what I cut my teeth on writing. And so I have a part on dialogue in there too. So those are, then there's one other that I did. It's called a novelette, and it's called Way Down Upon a Swanee Murder. I pulled it off. I'm going to republish it again soon, because it's great. It's a fun one for Halloween. So it's about a novelette. It's a 9,000 words. You can't call it a short story. So
Gotcha.
yeah. So anyway, those are them. And then On Sugar Hill comes out next June. And then the other one will be sometime after that. So
Well, thank you, Anne. You have been a delightful guest. We enjoyed getting to know you better.
That I enjoyed it. It was really fun. And if anybody wants, I write for The Right Conversation. I blog for them. I'm a columnist once a month, and it is a phenomenal blog. If you don't, Edie Melson started it, and we've got a whole lot of different people who contribute to it. And it's a writing one, kind of like the old Novel Rocket used to be, Novel Journey. Mm-hmm. And I really enjoy it. And I always try to do a teaching one. I did one yesterday, busting the 3 myths about the inciting incident. So it's on Right Conversation. Yeah.
Well, that sounds great. Good. Thank you so much. I will put up all your links right beside this, and I will, as soon as it's up on YouTube, I'll send you all the links that you can share, and we'll put all your information up for anyone to see.
Thank you, Terry. This has been fun. We're going to pull another direct topic again. That would be fun.
Oh, we'd love to have you again.
Yes, this was quite delightful. Thank you.
Thank you.